Welcome to this Nexa video. Today we will see how to build a system where Nexa and Solidworks work together. In detail, we will see how to install the Essig PLM connector on Solidworks, and then we will install Nexa and the Nexa web application on a server. We will show you how to connect to Nexa from a web browser in the client, and how to use the Nexa functionalities directly from Solidworks. At the end, we will install the Bom Import Tool and we will access it from a web browser. Nexa follows a client-server architecture. In a company, each engineer has its own CAD tool installed on a local machine. The CAD tool we choose for this video is Solidworks. However, the connector is available also for AutoCAD, Inventor, Creo, and NX. On the same client where there is Solidworks, we install the connector. On the other hand, Nexa is usually installed on a server. In this video, to help you disambiguate whether we are performing an action on the client or on the server, we will use an icon. This icon tells us that we are on the client, while this one tells us that we are on the server. You don't need two computers to test the advantages of a connector plus Nexa solution, since one can mimic the client-server architecture with the help of a virtual machine. At first, we will give you a general overview, and later we will go into the details of the installation process. At the beginning, let's consider a computer with Windows 10 Pro, where we have a working copy of Solidworks. We call this computer the client. We download and unzip the Nexa connectors file on the client. We go to the client subfolder and we run as an administrator the connectors for PLM Nexa setup.exe program. At the end of this procedure, the connectors are installed and Solidworks is ready to communicate with Nexa. The Microsoft Hyper-V hypervisor embedded in Windows 10 is perfect to run the virtual machine. We call this virtual computer the server. Notice that the server has a specific name. You can easily find it by using the command ipconfig/all in a Windows command prompt at the line host name. In the present case, the server specific name is desktop-L5INVNS. We will often use it later during the presentation. Keep in mind that if you're trying to reproduce the actions performed in this video, every time that you see this name, you should replace it with the name of the machine where you installed the Nexa server. The first action to be performed on the server is to install the Nexa prerequisites that include the Microsoft IIS and the Microsoft SQL Server. Please refer to the Nexa prerequisite guide for the details of this installation. As soon as the prerequisites are installed, one needs to download the Product Center Nexa file from the Essig PLM website and unzip it. By running as an administrator the Product Center Nexa server setup.exe file, one installs the Nexa server on the virtual machine. In order to be able to access to the Nexa server from a web browser of the client, one needs to install also the Nexa web application. This is obtained by running as an administrator the Product Center Nexa web application setup.exe file. The basic client-server architecture is now complete. It is possible to let Solidworks on the client communicate with Nexa on the server, or to access to Nexa directly from a web browser. The next step is to download the Nexa connectors file also on the server, unzip it, and run as an administrator the Product Center Nexa Bom Import Tools setup.exe file. With the Bom Import Tool, we can, in fact, inject into Nexa a complex bill of materials with just a few mouse clicks. The configuration is now complete. It is possible to inject and retrieve assemblies and parts directly from Solidworks via the connector. We can use a web browser from any computer that can communicate with the server to access to all the Nexa functionalities and to the Nexa Bom Import Tool. If one wants to further customize the connector, it is possible to use the Nexa connector administrator present into the Nexa connectors folder that we downloaded on the client. Let's see in detail how to install the Nexa connector for Solidworks. From a web browser, we go to the Essig PLM website. The website will require you to have an account to download the files. We remind you that this Nexa demo version is totally free. We select Products and then Nexa. In the new page, we scroll down until we see the Download Nexa tab, and we click on it. Here, we can download two zipped files, one for Nexa and the other for the connector. After downloading the connector, we unzip it. The result is a folder containing all the programs that we need to interface Solidworks and Nexa. Before installing the connector, we open Solidworks to examine its menus. After the installation, there will be a Nexa entry among the possible choices of the Tools tab. Now we go to the Nexa Connectors folder. We enter into the Client subfolder and we run as administrator the connectors for PLM Nexa setup.exe file. We press Next and we accept the license agreement. Then we press Install. When the procedure is over, we click on Finish. If we open Solidworks, we can see that a new Nexa entry is now present. Please remember that we can always deactivate the connector. This can be obtained by selecting Add-ins, scrolling down until we see Connectors for Nexa, and unchecking it. The first step of this setup is now complete, and we can go to the next one. We are now on the server where we want to install Nexa. As we just did, we need to go to the essigplm.com website. In this case, we need both the Product Center Nexa and the Nexa Connectors files. We download and unzip them, and at first we enter into the Product Center Nexa folder. Here we run as an administrator the Product Center Nexa server setup.exe file. We press on Next, and we accept the terms of the license agreement. Then we press Next again, and we fill the information for the database. Here we insert the database password. Please remember to write it down at the time of the installation of the prerequisites. And then we press Next. At this point, the Nexa server has been installed. We now need to insert a valid license into Nexa. We can ask the license to the Nexa support. Before inserting the license file in the resource folder, we should stop the CMS services. In particular, CMS broker. We copy the license file that we received from the Nexa support and we navigate to the folder where Nexa is installed. We go to the resource folder and we paste the license file. Notice that it is important that the license file is just called license.dat, while sometimes it can have the name of the computer where it should run. Now we can go to the services and restore them. We need to start three services. They are CMS Broker, CMS License, and CMS Vault. As you can see, they are all running. This means that the license is working correctly. Now we will install the Nexa web application that allows us to communicate via web browser to Nexa. We click on Next and we accept the license agreement. We click on Next again, and here we have to insert the name of the computer where we installed the Nexa server. We click on Next and Install. We are now required to restore the computer. After restarting the computer, the installation procedure will start again. We should just wait until we see its dialog. We click on Next again, we accept the license agreement again, we insert again the name of the server and we press on Next. At this point, the Nexa web application has been installed. We can check it by opening a web browser in the client, inserting the address http:// the name of the server where it is running, in this case desktop-l5invns/Nexa. We see the Nexa screen. We insert the credentials for a Nexa user and we can access to all the Nexa functionalities. With the Nexa web application, it is possible to access to Nexa from a web browser from any computer able to communicate with the server. The main part of the setup is complete. We have installed both ends of the system, the connector and Nexa. It is time to see how to access to the connector functionalities directly from Solidworks. We select Tools, Nexa, and then Settings. This opens a small dialog where we need to enter the credentials for a Nexa user. The database name, in the case of a demo version it is Nexa, the name of the broker, that is another term for the name of the server where Nexa is installed, in this case desktop L5INVNS, and the port of the database. The standard one is 5400. When we press Login, we are redirected to the connector settings. You might need to contact your IT department to manage the firewall of the private network in the server, since it might impede the connection between the connector and the Nexa server. Among the settings, one can see the information about the session, the resource settings, the property mappings, and the messages. If we open an assembly in SolidWorks and we select the Nexa tab, we can see a series of buttons that allow us to easily exchange data between Nexa and SolidWorks. In detail, we can see that the Retrieve and Store buttons are already available, while the Lock and Unlock ones depend on the actions performed on the assembly. We can also insert, replace, copy, check status, use the Workplace Explorer, go to the settings, or get information about the connector and Nexa. The last step that we will see today regards the Bom Import Tool. We will install it on the server and we will be able to access it from a web browser in the client. In this case, we open the Nexa Connectors folder and we go to Server, Bom Import, where we run as an administrator the Product Center Nexa Bom Import Setup.exe program. We click on Next and we accept the license agreement. After pressing Next again, we need to enter the Product Center broker computer name, that is the name of the computer where there is the Nexa server, desktop L5INVNS. The default port number and the name are 5400 and Nexa, all capital. We click Next and Install. And at the end of the procedure, we press on Finish. We can now access to the Bom Import Tool from any web browser that can access the server. We open one in the client and we type http://desktop L5INVNS/Nexa Bom Import. We enter one Nexa user credentials and we select the database name. As a result, we can access to the Bom Import Tool that allows us to quickly store the BOM of complex assemblies. In summary, we have shown you a system where there is a client with SolidWorks and the connector, and a server where there are the Nexa server, the Nexa web application, and the Nexa Bom Import Tool. We can use this configuration to store assembly in Nexa directly from SolidWorks. We can also access to Nexa or to the Bom Import Tool from any web browser able to connect with the server. Any customization of the connector can also be performed within the client by using the Nexa Connector Administrator program. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications so that you won't miss all the upcoming Nexa videos with new tutorials and feature updates. Thanks for watching.